Have you ever felt like you were losing your mind over someone who barely seemed to notice you existed? That feeling right there, that confusion, that ache in your chest when someone you want suddenly goes cold. When they pull away, the moment you think things are finally getting real. You've replayed their last text 1,000 times. You've convinced yourself you said something wrong. You've wondered what you could have done differently to keep them close. But what if I told you it's not your fault? What if the reason you feel so addicted to this person isn't because they're special? What if it's because they're running a psychological pattern that literally rewires your brain to crave them more every time they disappear? And what if understanding this one pattern could save you years of emotional confusion, broken confidence, and wasted time on people who were never truly available for you in the first place? Here's what most people never realize. The feeling you have when someone pulls away, that panic, that desperate need to fix things, that willingness to shrink yourself just to get them back, that isn't love. That is a neurological response. Your brain is releasing dopamine every time they return, just like a slot machine. The unpredictable push and pull creates an addictive cycle that feels like passion, but it burns out. Every single time. The worst part? The person doing the pushing and pulling probably doesn't even realize they're doing it. They're not trying to hurt you. They are wounded. They learned somewhere along the way that closeness equals pain. So when things start feeling good, their nervous system literally forces them to create distance. They pull you close because they want you. They push you away because they're terrified of what that wanting means. And you're left in the wreckage wondering what you did wrong. Nothing. You did nothing wrong. You just walked into a game that was rigged from the start. But here's the beautiful part. Once you understand how this game works, once you see the pattern clearly, you gain complete power over it. You stop chasing. You stop taking their silence personally. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's fear. You start choosing yourself. And that shift right there, that's what changes everything. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how the push-pull dynamic works, not just on the surface, but deep in the psychology of why it creates such insane attraction. I'll explain why avoidants do what they do, why your brain gets trapped in the cycle, and most importantly, how to break free from it permanently. I'm also going to show you what real attraction actually looks like, the kind that doesn't require anxiety, confusion, or constant uncertainty to feel alive. Stay until the end, because the final section will give you a completely new framework for how you show up in your relationships. A framework that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, and doesn't leave you feeling unworthy. A framework that magnetizes the right people to you naturally. You are not broken, you are not too much, you are not the problem in your story, you just need to see clearly. And once you do, you will never go back to accepting half-empty love ever again. Let's begin. Why can't you stop thinking about them? Seriously. Think about that for a second. You know they're inconsistent. You know they disappear. You know they give you nothing solid to stand on. But your mind keeps circling back to them like a moth to a flame. And the worse they treat you, the harder you fall. That is not random. That is science. There is something deep inside every human being that was designed millions of years ago. A survival mechanism that made our ancestors chase, hunt, and persist. Back in the early days of human existence, the things that were hard to get were the things worth having. Food that ran, shelter that moved, safety that had to be defended. Your brain learned that difficult means valuable, and that ancient programming never went away. Today, when someone plays hard to get, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a zebra running across a savanna and a text message that went unanswered. It triggers the same response. It floods your body with adrenaline. It makes your chest tighten. It creates this desperate, burning need to pursue, not because you want to, but because your brain interprets the chase as survival. The push-pull dynamic exploits this perfectly. Every time an avoidant pulls away, your brain reads it as a loss. And your brain hates loss more than it loves gain. Psychologists call it loss aversion. It's the idea that losing something feels twice as painful as gaining something feels good. So when that person withdraws, your brain immediately goes into recovery mode. You start strategizing, you start replaying moments, you start crafting messages in your head, trying to figure out how to get them back. That frantic energy feels like passion, but it's not. It's desperation wearing a love costume. And then they return. that text comes through, that call happens, they show up again, and your entire nervous system explodes with relief. Your brain floods with dopamine. You feel high. You feel alive. You feel like everything is finally okay again. And in that moment, you associate their return with happiness. So you want more of it. You want it again. You want it forever. But here's what you're not seeing. You're not falling in love with them. You're falling in love with the relief. You're becoming conditioned to their absence and their return. The cycle itself is the addiction, not the person inside it. This is why people spend years stuck on someone who gave them nothing. This is why they ignore every red flag, every silence, every broken promise, because the unpredictable rhythm rewires their brain to need the chifu. The highs feel euphoric, the lows feel devastating, and they keep chasing because they believe the next high is just one more return away. It's not. The truth is, real connection doesn't require a chase. Real connection doesn't leave you breathless and confused. Real connection doesn't feel like a slot machine pulling the lever on your emotions every single day. When you understand this mechanism, and when you see clearly how your brain was tricked into chasing something that was never actually there, you gain something incredible. You gain the ability to step out of the pattern entirely. You gain the freedom to stop investing your energy in someone whose inconsistency was never about you. And here's what most people never discover. Once you stop chasing the pattern loses its power over you. Once you stop treating unpredictable availability as if it were scarce treasure, you become the most magnetic version of yourself. Not because you're playing games, but because you're finally operating from a place of peace instead of panic. That version of you, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't shrink, doesn't need anyone to complete them, that version attracts everything they ever wanted. Stay with me, because in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly why this feels like love but isn't. I'm going to break down the psychological difference between anxiety and attraction, and I'm going to give you the clarity you need to stop confusing pain with passion. This is going to change the way you see your past, your present, and every relationship that comes after. Don't skip ahead. This is the foundation everything else is built on. Let's be honest about something painful. The feeling you have right now for that person, the one who keeps you hanging, the one who appears and vanishes like a ghost, the one who makes your heart race and your mind spiral, it feels like love. I know it does. That ache in your chest feels profound. That obsession feels meaningful. That willingness to drop everything for them feels noble. But what you're experiencing isn't love. It's anxiety wearing love's clothes. And I need you to sit with that for a moment, because this is where most people lose themselves. They mistake the storm for the destination. They confuse the high they get from uncertainty with the deep peace that only real love provides. And they spend years pouring their energy into a feeling that was never designed to sustain them. Here's how you can tell the difference. Real love feels calm, not boring, not passionless, calm, like standing water after a storm, like your nervous system finally exhaling after holding its breath for months. When someone truly loves you, you don't have to guess. You don't have to decode. You don't have to stay awake at night wondering where you stand. The clarity is there. The consistency is there. The presence is there. What you have with an avoidant feels like standing in the eye of a hurricane and calling it romance. The intensity is real. I won't take that away from you. What you feel is intense, but intensity is not depth. Drama is not passion. Chaos is not chemistry. Your nervous system is responding to instability the same way it would respond to danger. Elevated heart rate, racing thoughts, emotional highs and lows. Those aren't signs of love. Those are signs of a body in survival mode. And the cruelest part of this confusion is that the harder you fall, the more you believe something must be wrong with you for not being able to let go. You think your inability to walk away means you're devoted. It means you're different. It means you're capable of a love most people can't handle. No, it means your attachment system got activated by inconsistency, and your brain started treating uncertainty as a puzzle it had to solve. You are not devoted, you are addicted, and there's a massive difference between the two. Devotion feels grounded, secure, empowering. It makes you feel stronger, not smaller. It makes you want to show up as your best self, not shrink into someone who begs for attention. Addiction feels frantic, desperate, exhausting. It makes you abandon your standards, ignore red flags, and sacrifice your peace just to feel one more moment of connection with someone who was never fully there to begin with. The person who created this confusion inside you isn't doing it maliciously. Most avoidants genuinely don't know they're doing it. They want closeness. They crave it. But the moment intimacy starts feeling real, something inside them panics. It's not a choice. It's a wound. They learned somewhere in their past that love comes with a cost, and their subconscious does everything possible to avoid paying it, even if it means destroying what they actually wanted. So they pull you in, they make you feel seen, they give you glimpses of who they really are, and then, the moment it starts feeling safe, they vanish, not because they don't care, but because they care so much it terrifies them. And you get stuck holding the emotional wreckage they left behind. You start questioning every interaction. You analyze your own behavior looking for the mistake. You blame yourself for being too much, too soon, too eager. You lower your expectations just to keep them in your life. You accept breadcrumbs and call them a feast. Stop. Just stop. The feeling you have isn't love. It's a stress response. And the person you're chasing isn't your soulmate. They're your nervous system's loudest distraction from healing the wounds that made you vulnerable to this pattern in the first place. In the next section, I'm going to take you inside the avoidant mind. You're going to understand exactly what happens inside them when intimacy gets too close. This will change how you see them, how you stop blaming yourself, and most importantly, how you finally break free. Keep watching. This is where it starts making sense. Now that you understand what's happening on your side of the equation, let's flip the script. Let's talk about what's happening inside the person pulling those strings. Because if you've been blaming yourself, if you've spent months wondering what you did wrong to deserve this silence, this section is going to rewire everything you thought you knew. Avoidants are not villains. I need you to really hear that. The person who kept slipping away, the one who opened up just enough to make you believe, then disappeared when things got real. They weren't trying to destroy you. They were fighting a battle so deep inside themselves that they didn't even know it existed. Here's what most people never see. Inside every avoidant is a child who learned very early that love was not safe. Maybe it was emotional neglect. Maybe it was a parent who was inconsistent. Maybe it was a household where vulnerability was punished instead of rewarded. Somewhere along the way, this person built a foundational belief that closeness leads to pain, that needing someone leads to disappointment, that opening up fully means handing someone the weapon that will eventually destroy you. And that belief didn't go away. It just went underground. They grew up believing they were fine alone. They convinced themselves they didn't need anyone. They built their entire identity around independence and self-sufficiency because that felt safer than admitting they were terrified of connection. On the surface, they look unbothered, untouchable, like someone who has everything figured out and simply doesn't need emotional intimacy the way other people do. But that's the mask. Underneath that confident exterior is someone who desperately wants what they can't allow themselves to have. They feel a pull toward you. They want to stay. They want to be open. They want to let you in completely. And the moment they start feeling that pull, something inside them sounds an alarm. Every nerve in their body screams that this is dangerous, that if they get any closer, something terrible is waiting on the other side. And so they do the only thing their nervous system knows how to do. They retreat. They create distance. They pull back, not because they don't care about you, but because they care so much that their fear of getting hurt overpowers everything else. This is called an avoidant attachment system, and it runs entirely below conscious awareness. They are not sitting there thinking, I should push this person away to keep them hooked. They're not plotting. They're not playing games. They're simply responding to a threat their body learned to recognize decades ago. And here's the part that will change how you see everything. When they pull away from you, they often feel relief in that moment. The walls go back up, the distance returns, and their nervous system settles into something that feels safe again. But that relief is short-lived. Within days, sometimes hours, they start feeling the emptiness. They remember how good it felt when they were close to you. They miss you. They reach out again. They pull you back in, and then the cycle repeats. This is why avoidants often describe their relationships as confusing even from their own side. They want you close. They push you away. They regret it. They pull you back. They wonder why they keep doing this. They don't understand their own behavior any more than you do. That's the inner battle playing out in real time. On one side, the desperate need for connection, for love, for someone to see them fully and stay anyway. On the other side, a defense system built from childhood wounds that activates the moment intimacy starts feeling real. Neither side wins. The push-pull continues, and you, standing in the middle of it, absorb all the damage from a war that's happening entirely inside someone else's head. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior. You are still allowed to protect yourself. You are still allowed to walk away. You are still allowed to refuse being someone's emotional experiment while they figure out their healing journey. But it does something powerful for you. It removes the blame. It takes away the confusion about whether you were the problem, because you weren't. You never were. In the next section, I'm going to break down exactly what each phase of the push-pull cycle looks like from the inside. You're going to recognize every single moment of it, and more importantly, you're going to see it for what it really is. Not a sign of deep passion, but a wound that hasn't healed yet. Stay with me. You're closer to freedom than you realize.